That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Needle in a Timestack, which is ostensibly the third film narrative feature directed by John Ridley, who of course is the Oscar-winning screenwriter of 12 Years a Slave. Lionsgate is releasing it October 15th, 2021.
We've had several comments about us not liking any films lately. I feel like that's not my fault.
I'm sure there's something I liked lately.
I didn't like this one.
No, same.
Damn. The director, what have they done?
John Ridley.
I'm thinking of Ridley Scott.
Yeah, no. John Ridley. He's probably better known as a writer-producer, but he, as I said, won an Oscar for...
Are you gay? Is that what you wrote down?
Yeah.
You are.
I know I am.
Oh, okay.
This is in relation to a reaction to something in this film.
Right.
Big block letter. Ridley won an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave, writing the adaptation. He directed a documentary in 2017 called Let It Fall, Los Angeles from 1982 to 1992, which I thought was very interesting. And the last theatrical narrative he directed I quite liked, Jimi, All Is By My Side, about Jimi Hendrix, where Andre 3000 is playing him.
Okay.
And really that's about his relationship with two white women. But I really liked Andre 3000 in that film, which kind of went nowhere and was overshadowed by the success of 12 Years a Slave. But this is based on a short story by a very prolific science fiction writer named Robert Silverberg.
It's funny you say that because as we were watching it, I was thinking this would make, I'm sure as a book, this would be so much better.
It feels like vintage sci-fi. It feels like the mechanics of how it's dealing with time travel, for instance, seem like something that you would have been popularized in the 1970s. But the other big adaptation of a Silverberg novel is Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams.
Okay, this movie is set in the near future. It revolves around a character played by Leslie Odom Jr.
Named Nick.
Nick is married to a woman named...
Janine.
Played by Cynthia Erivo.
Mm-hmm.
They don't seem to be the happiest of couples. They just seem to be getting on.
They seem to be, they're painted in a way that's soft lens picture perfect at first until they kind of start to talk and you realize that there's doubt.
Right. Okay. Very, very quickly we find out time travel is possible and that time... How do you even explain the ripples?
It looks like a giant wave of plasma that suddenly washes over people, and the people that go through it experience something different, like nosebleeds, disorientation, blah, blah, blah.
It seems time travel is possible in this universe. It seems to be very easy to do. It's just very expensive. So only the rich do it, apparently. Okay. It would also seem that when people go back in time, whatever they're affecting, it creates this ripple on people. I was very confused by why some people, because the first time we see it is in the beginning when Nick is at work in a boardroom meeting.
He's an urban planner.
And then we get this big wave of time, I guess, and everyone in the room is disoriented. Mm-hmm. But then they act like it's not a common thing because everyone's like, okay, take some time to call your family. Not unlike when we have an earthquake.
Yeah,
and everyone calls.
A time quake.
So I was very confused by that, but we can get into how the time travel doesn't make sense. But kind of just to wrap this all up, Nick becomes convinced that Janine's ex, this rich guy named Tommy, played by Orlando Bloom, wants her back. And he's going back in time because he can afford to do so, to tinker with some shit to get her to never leave him. Nick is paranoid, so he scrounges up all his coins to go back in time to college.
Well, he does that because Tommy's plan works and a phasing happens, a time shift happens, and he wakes up and Janine, they no longer are together. And 9 years have passed.
That's right. Yes.
So
even though Nick has a new life with a new lady,
Alex, played by Freida Pinto, his girlfriend from college in this sequence.
We need to talk about this because I wish they would have delved into the psychology of how this character, who's aware of time travel and is aware that something happened in his past, he had someone went back into his past, changed things, so now his life is different. But the life he has with Freida's character is like, but to me, I would think like, well, yeah, I miss you, but shit happened, time happened, and I've made a new life that I should be happy with because I made it for myself. I think the story should have focused on that. But anyway, 9 years later, new life, nice house. He still wants to go back and try to get with Janine. So he pays to go back in their college days to get Tommy to fall in love with Freida's character. And it works. But then he kind of screws himself over because Nick ends up all alone. And then a pivotal scene is towards the end. Nick has a sister played by
Jadyn Wong, named Zoe.
Which we'll get into. But they have a conversation where he says, like, have I always been so lonely? And then Zoe's like, yeah, I'm worried about you. I've been wondering when you're going to snap out of it. And it's your birthday coming up. You have no plans. So Zoe calls Tommy, Orlando Bloom's character, to basically like invite him to his house for his birthday. And Nick goes, and it's like this big event at this rich man's house. And we see that Tommy is happily married to Freida's character. The end. But as Nick is leaving the party, he sees Janine, who's a photographer. They lock eyes. And it's clear, even though his memory of her should be erased, there's still something in him, whether it's just like basic attraction or a little bit of a memory that draws him to her. The end. Oh, there's some... The only good thing about this movie, in my opinion, is because the soundtrack is out of control, but there's one song that played called Gorecki by a band named Lamb.
I keep going to Guernica.
Gorecki. The band is called Lamb. The song is from 1996, I believe.
And sounds like it.
And it sounds just like it's from 1996. I did like that song and added it to my playlist.
Because it's funny, we're like, this sounds like a 90s adult thriller. And I joked, Traces of Red, starring Lorraine Bracco. And then we're in the mood to watch an actual 90s adult thriller, and we were looking up, that popped up as something. Anyway.
But other than that, I had so many issues with this film. Do you want to start?
Where are your notes?
I don't have any. I was so annoyed by this movie.
It was very taxing.
Start with time travel.
Well, so it seems like based on the kind of events that somebody's tinkering with depends on the size of the phasing. Again, I'm assuming, because in the boardroom when we first see it happen to everybody, something big must have happened, bigger, that everybody was affected by this. Otherwise, if it's just people dealing around with little personal matters, only the people the ripple effects of those people in that trajectory, only they are affected.
My problem with the time travel is it's not well explained. All we know is that it's expensive, so only rich people go. And then when Nick goes, the consultant says, okay, you just have to pinky swear that you're not going to alter the past. But it's like, okay, who's like enforcing that? Because clearly Tommy's ass is out here messing with all kinds of shit. And then it's like, okay, so that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, like you said, it's not explaining these ripple effects and how, like, what are the rules for that? So I was very distracted by that.
Well, and also, why is it so expensive? Because much like in Total Recall, the original Verhoeven being a much better film, he just goes and sits kind of quietly in a room and is basically drinks a liquid and is hypnotized and...
Oh, also when he goes back, when we see Nick go back in time, they have to like put makeup on him and put like a toupee on him to make him look like he did in back like 20 years prior. That made no sense to me. Okay, so the time travel was garbage. Then do you know what the tagline is for this movie?
It made Reminiscence feel semi-brilliant.
Well, do you know the tagline?
No, not.
I don't either, but I feel like it would be something like a love that transcends time or something like that. But then I think the worst part of the story is Cynthia Erivo and Leslie Odom Jr.'s characters we never see like this greatest love of all, that he would do all of this. They seem like two people who are just tired of each other, or not like they're at odds, but they just seem like they're not passionately in love.
It's kind of about self-fulfilling prophecy and jealousy almost, which we had shown how they have this great foundation, if it weren't for Nick's extreme jealousy, think like Claude Chabrol's L'Enfer, and she says, you know, he can't undo that, only we can do that, is what Cynthia Erivo says to him at one point. And it becomes what he does by going off to Tommy.
Which makes sense, but everything is so bland. Like, every character is so flat. So I don't understand the emotion and the passion behind what's driving Nick.
I agree. And then the title suggests kind of a vintage, retro, sci-fi romance almost. I don't like the title, but I was hoping my own mind went to this really pretty decent Hilary Brower film from 1997 called The Sticky Fingers of Time, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend that, and has a nice kind of queer component to it as well. And we can get into the queer components in this, I think.
Well, we only have a few minutes, but what else?
But just all of the terminology, of course, always it kind of takes away rather than adds to, like the jaunting. Did you jaunt today? Which is the term in this world for going back. To me, this film should have been called The Jaunting then.
The title is so stupid. It's so stupid. Okay, Zoe, what's that lady's name?
Jadyn Wong. So he's on the phone with his sister quite a bit, and obviously he knows her since a child, so she's always part of his timeline. And it's about to be his birthday originally, and she's trying to get him to go rock climbing over the phone. And he's like, I don't want to die before my birthday. And then when we see the sister in person, her best friend, who's this woman from Portugal who doesn't speak any English, neither does Zoe speak any Portuguese, went rock climbing, and that woman died. And
so then Zoe went back in time to fix it so her best friend doesn't die. Again, what are these rules? They're telling people not to alter the past, but clearly people are doing that. But Jadyn, who happens to be Asian, so we're assuming, you know, maybe an adopted sister or stepsister, I don't know.
Which I guess it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But I think it's relevant in the sense that it adds to the oddness of this character, because this acting.
Well, when I first see her, I'm like, wait, did I hear wrong that they're brother and sister?
I wasn't distracted by her being Asian. I think it's just one more thing it's like, oh, that's different, like not what I expected. And then this actor, there are a lot of close-ups, like straight on of this lady who looks like she's either on the verge of crying or laughing. This acting is like not good.
She's presented as somebody that's kind of emotionally unstable, and it doesn't help that she seems like a closeted queer character that's talking in code.
Which seems so weird because we're in the future. Girl, no one cares about your Lebesianism.
And even the sequence she has with Freida Pinto talking about how she's against monogamy, but it's like, but you are all hemmed up and are in severe, incredible debt by jaunting to go get this.
But we need to be clear that the queer undertone is not subtle.
No.
She keeps going on about her best friend and how much she loves her and how she's never been happier.
Yeah,
girl.
And yet doesn't speak the same language. It's very bizarre.
I think that is that's one of the strangest characters I've seen in a movie in a while.
Yeah, again, I don't know that it's Jadyn Wong's fault per se, but she seems like she's on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
In every scene.
I would only recommend this movie if it's on streaming and you can fast forward to the 2 parts where she's in it just to watch this lady act. It's really off the wall.
It is. And so right before Nick and Janine are no more during Tommy's machinations, he goes to have this place at the mall where they can back up all your memories into the cloud.
Oh, that's right.
But they're like, there's all this to do but we can't guarantee that they will be able to be recalled at any time.
There's 100% guarantee that you get your money back if we lose them, but we can't guarantee we won't
because
lose
of all these time shifts that make everything crazy. So
which obviously plays a part in the plot.
So he goes through time shifts, can't find his memories, and it seems, and what they also don't explain is when during that time shift and he gets out of the car and Janine calls him, it's like the memory of her fades Like there's like a sliver of a memory of her at first. Anyway, he gets called out of the blue by these people saying, we recovered a memory, we're gonna send it to you. It's 1 second. It's a 1 second clip of something you can barely see, and then that kind of shoves him down this rabbit hole. I know my time with Alex is false, so I'm not happy, blah blah blah.
We have a prior engagement, so we need to end this video. What would you give it?
We haven't even talked about Freida Pinto.
Well, I mean, I told you we had 15 minutes, so it's 16 minutes now.
Pinto is...
We're doing a live stream in like 5 minutes.
Pinto is somebody who I find is a very beautiful screen presence, but always a little dead behind the eyes. And this is another film that really doesn't give her anything to do. And you had commented that you think Orlando Bloom fares the best, but...
Yeah, and he's a good-looking man, so that's a plus.
Sure, but he also really has nothing to do.
Okay, but we do need to stop this video, so what would you give it?
I always thought you and I would be timeless. I would give this film 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5 as well. Thank you.